Okay, I'd like to call the special call meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, March 8th, 2010 to order. Will the city clerk please call the roll and make general announcements?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will be happy to call roll for the March 8th, 2010 special called meeting. However, I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Additionally, those attending the meeting who would like to provide public comment either during the public hearing or during the call for public comment, you are required to complete a public comment card prior to speaking on an item. There is no public comment for consent agenda items or items under first presentation. Those called to speak will be taken in the order that the speaker cards were received by the city clerk's staff prior to the beginning of tonight's meeting. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and organization if applicable. When you hear the bell, you have 30 seconds to complete your remarks. The City Council may allow public comment on either an agenda item or general public comment from a representative of such an organized group or association, provided, however, that such an individual shall file a notarized affidavit that they have the authority to speak on behalf of said organization on a form provided by the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. Demonstration of any sort within this chamber is prohibited. Please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outbursts, or dialogue with any person speaking. Please show the same respect to the person speaking that you will expect to receive yourself. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll, please confirm your attendance. Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Here.
Councilmember Karen Thurman.
Here.
Councilmember Julie Zonner Bailey. Absent. Councilmember Bill Lusk.
Here.
Councilmember Bert Hewitt.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Longoria.
Here.
Councilmember Alan Tart.
Here.
Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the city clerk please sound the next item?
Next item is approval of meeting agenda. Agenda item number 1067.
Is there any other items to be considered tonight?
No, sir.
Then do I have a motion and a second?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Hewitt, second by Councilmember Tart. Is there any discussion among council? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Next item is public comment. Public comment is a time for citizens to share information with the mayor and the city council and to provide input and opinions on any matter that is not scheduled for its own public hearing during today's meeting. There's no discussion on items on the consent agenda or first presentation from the public or from council. Each citizen who chooses to participate in public comment must complete a comment card and submit it to the city clerk. Please remember this is not a time to engage the mayor or members of the city council in conversation. When your name is called, please come forward and speak into the microphone stating your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes for remarks. Is there any public comment?
Yes, sir. We have Mr. E.J. Bowen.
Hi, E.J. Bowen. I work or live over off of live on 1110 South Bethany Creek Drive. First of all, appreciate the time, be able to get up and speak for you guys today, and I appreciate all of the work that you guys do for our city. Like I said, I live off of Bethany Bend and Highway 9, and I appreciate the live-work community that we have the opportunity to live in and be able to get to the services that we need and be able to walk around our community. And with regards to this, I know you guys are working on the Highway 9 overlay. And I would like to just make a couple comments on the overlay. I would really appreciate if the Highway 9 overlay regulation would generate the quality of development along Highway 9 corridor, and while promoting the economic, cultural, and open space and safety features to promote the public welfare. One other item, I would also like to have a special attention given to the permitted uses of development when C1 borders residential zoning. For example, in Cherokee County, the Highway 92 overlay prohibits service stations within 400 feet of any residential property. If this sounds familiar, my wife emailed this to you guys this morning. And she also sent you guys the Highway 92 overlay for Cherokee County. So I just appreciate you guys' consideration in this, and thanks for your time.
If you could respond. Do we have any other comments, public comments?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to unfinished business. Will City Clerk please sound the next item?
Next item is approval of an ordinance to amend Chapter 7, Alcoholic Beverages of the City of Milton Code of Ordinances. This is agenda item number 1068. Mr. Ken Gerard, City Attorney.
Actually, Mayor and Council, I'm going to take this one tonight. We threw a curveball to the clerk. This is really, if I could summarize what this modification of the ordinance is really to bring the ordinance back into line with the way it was prior to codification. I think we've had this discussion that when we went through the codification of our ordinances, we had a section that dealt with the ability to pour alcohol in this, and it was all one big paragraph. What happened when the code attorneys broke it into other smaller paragraphs or a bulleted style like it was is that the concepts and the intent changed and added a different reckoning period for certain offenses, which would be disqualifiers for those that wanted to pour alcohol in a Milton restaurant. The action that we're asking you to take tonight is not to modify in the spirit this particular ordinance. It's to bring it back into line with the way it was prior to codification. This is purely a housekeeping issue and one that will allow those that were able to pour alcohol in Milton yesterday the ability to do it again today.
Do we have any questions for Chris on this item from council?
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, if we're talking about the changes that are being made, I wanted to know if item number 5 and item number 6 under Part A of Section 5, are those not sexually related crimes, or are those managed differently? And the reason I ask is because moving forward, it's a lot easier to, you know, have a clause in there that says any sexual related crime rather than specifically calling them out and then having to go back and look at the laws as certain things fall off or get added. So I just didn't know why the 2 were being added in addition to item number 7.
Well, you're thinking about it for 1 second. Just for the record, if the clerk would note that Councilmember Bailey is in attendance here.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I want to make sure I understood what I thought. I think the question is, and I think the answer is that there was not a lot of trying to add or include new sections to what we're doing here. It was simply to undo what we thought was done incorrectly when they codified. That's all.
Okay.
To the extent that what you're suggesting makes sense and it's, that this is a little redundant, fair enough. But again, we were just trying to make it something you all have seen before, but simply to express what we had formally expressed. That's
Okay.
all.
And Chris or Ken, if you don't mind, just maybe give a simple example of what's happened that brought this up.
Sure. Yeah. What the way it was before is there were some qualifying offenses that carried with it just a lifetime of not being able to serve alcohol in the city of Milton, which would have been a disqualifying event. There were others that primarily had a 5-year reckoning period with them. With the way this broke down, all of the items carried a lifetime prohibition against pouring alcohol in the city of Milton, except for one, which happened to be the sexual-related crime. So if somebody had been convicted of a sexual-related crime 5 years later, they were ready to be eligible to serve alcohol in the city of Milton again, whereas somebody who might have been convicted of a misdemeanor drug possession 32 years ago would all of a sudden not have been able to be qualified to pour alcohol in Milton. And really, I think a lot of these standards need to be in place the way they were, which is, you know, yes, there are certain events that cause people not to be able to serve alcohol in the city of Milton, but have a bit of trouble with some of them, you know, a quarter of a decade later, influencing whether or not somebody could actually be gainfully employed. And what has brought this to our attention was we are going through a round of renewals of the pouring permits, and we had people that were eligible yesterday that, based on our ordinance, would not be eligible today. And I don't think that was what we intended simply by going through the legal process of codification.
Okay. Is there any more questions for city manager or city attorney? Julie?
Thank you. And Chris, you may have already addressed this, but I believe when we talked about this a week or so ago, you mentioned that this was also similar to the requirements for our police officers. Can you just comment on that?
No, well, yes, I'll comment on it, but I want to clarify that. You know, there are police agencies in the nation who would, and I guess the way I brought it up was, you know, we now have in our pouring requirements a prohibition against a misdemeanor possession of marijuana charge if it happened 40 years ago. You know, there are reckoning periods, and they vary in length depending on the type of field that somebody wants to get into. I have not seen a police hiring standard that would disqualify somebody for misdemeanor possession of marijuana, you know, at that length. Obviously, I think 5 years is probably too short for somebody in a law enforcement career. But did that answer your question?
I just wanted to make sure that this is not indeed consistent with those others, based on what you've just clarified, because when we had that discussion, it brought forward other questions in my mind. So this is specifically pertinent to the language that would have been in place prior to that codification.
Absolutely. This is purely housekeeping to bring us back to where I think the spirit of the ordinance originally was.
Okay. If I don't have any other questions, do I have a motion and a second?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve agenda item number 10-1068, approval of an ordinance to amend Chapter 7 alcoholic beverages of the City of Milton Code of Ordinances.
We have a motion by Councilmember Thurman, second by Councilmember Lusk. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, that's going to conclude our special called meeting. Do I have a motion that we adjourn?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I have a motion by Councilmember Tart, second by Councilmember Hewitt to adjourn the meeting. 5:56.
Do we have to vote on that?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Not that we've ever had anyone not vote to adjourn, but